Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan and I'm your host. Today I'm going to talk about the future geopolitical scenarios of South Asia. This is another special issue of Khanversations in which I answer your questions. Please send your questions to askprofkhan at gmail.com. You can see the email address here, askprofkhan at gmail.com. But before I read your question out and start engaging with the question, please subscribe to Khanversations, like the video, and also press the bell icon. Do share this video with your friends and colleagues and relatives and students who are interested in geopolitics or otherwise essentially interested in international affairs. So I'm going to answer two questions in this episode. I'm currently traveling abroad and the internet connection is not as good as I like, and therefore I'm trying to keep the videos to around 20 minutes or less so that they don't take many hours to upload. So the first question I received is from Anuj Regmi, who has a very simple question but it requires a very complex answer. So his question is, Sir, how do you observe current situation in the subcontinent and its future scenarios? This can itself be a full class on the state of geopolitics in the South Asian region and the trends that are impacting. So I thought that the one way to answer this question was to toss 4 or 5 questions back at Anuj Regmi and those who are watching for you to decide. I'm not going to make predictions about the future and say this happens. We can only identify the trends which are going to impact the future and what possible future scenarios can emerge. I see that the biggest driver, and all of you probably will agree with me, that the biggest driver of geopolitics in the near and long-term future is going to be the India-China competition. India and China are competing not just for geopolitical dominance in South Asia. India and China are also competing in the technology sector, and now with the emergence of India as the new go-to location for Western manufacturing, with the advent of Apple 14 manufacturing in India completely, and it is quite possible that we may see more green technology related manufacturing coming especially from the United States to India. The US strategy of friendshoring might essentially help India against China. So India and China are also going to be competing in trying to become the factories and the venue for manufacturing for the rest of the world. So this India-China competition is going to drive South Asia and its future. So I think there are 5 questions that are critical in the light of the India-China competition as to how or what answers emerge to these 5 questions. I think will determine what happens in the long term in South Asia. The first question is, will India join the US bloc or remain autonomous? So as we all know that the United States is aggressively pushing the Indo-Pacific strategy in which India becomes part of the Quad. India is already part of the Quad, but India sees the Quad as a security dialogue, whereas the United States wants to convert it into an alliance, is sort of NATO of the East. And so if India becomes an ally, a treaty-based defense partner of the United States, then we are going to be involved in this Cold War-like scenario with China. So the competition with China could become far more serious and hostile than if India chooses to remain autonomous. India's strategy at the moment is of multi-alignment, that India would like to align with the West, would also like to align with Russia, would also like to align with China. India does not want to take sides. It's not like non-alignment. During the non-alignment, India would not take sides with anybody. But in this scenario, it's the opposite. India would like to take sides with everybody. So if India remains autonomous, the future of the region is going to be very different. It will be less, shall we say, part of the Western military infrastructure. And if India continues to improve its relation with China, then we can actually envisage India playing a significant role in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and maybe in some way modifying the Belt and Road Initiative so that India's role also becomes more significant. So India does not become part of BN, Belt and Road, BRI, but BRI adjusts and becomes something new with an India-China partnership. I know a lot of my viewers see this as too optimistic a vision, but I think that is probably the best case scenario for India, geopolitically speaking, is to find a way to coexist with China rather than let this competition become hostile. Will Pakistan stabilize or will it collapse? Will Pakistan become a failed state? Will it collapse under the pressure of its own geopolitical ambitions, under the pressure of what it did with its foreign policy, and also under pressure of the domestic turmoil that is going on right now in Pakistan? Not only that, Pakistan unfortunately has been on the receiving end of nature's anger with floods and earthquakes, etc. So if the Pakistani government is unable to raise its level of governance several notches up, it is going to become very, very difficult for Pakistan to remain a stable state and continue to grow. There are also issues in Balochistan and other places which threaten to tear the country apart. So the key question is that while in the short term Pakistan will continue to experience economic and domestic political turmoil, will it stabilize eventually with the help of the West or with the help of China? That remains to be a question. If Pakistan becomes an unstable state, a failed society, then we are into trouble. It will cause all kinds of problems, especially for India and the region, and it will definitely impact the growth of the region and the stability of the region significantly. And that is something for everybody to understand. Pakistan is one of the legs of the stool, and if one of the legs breaks, the stool cannot remain stable at all. So it's very critical. A stable Pakistan is important for a stable, safe, and secure South Asia. With regard to Bangladesh, can it replicate India's foreign policy and try to remain multi-aligned, which means that it aligns with India, it aligns with China, and also aligns with the United States? Or will it sort of become a quasi vassal state of China? That remains to be seen. Bangladesh's economy is doing very well. It's an export-driven economy. It is quite stable at the moment. It has very strong democratic credentials. So there is a lot going for Bangladesh, except for the fact that it is stuck in between these two behemoths, India and China, countries with more than 1 billion people which are competing. If two elephants start fighting, what do you think is going to happen to the goat that gets in the middle? And on top of that, it has border issues with Myanmar and the Rohingya refugees. These are some challenges besides the fact that Bangladesh is the biggest, shall we say, state that is most vulnerable to climate change. And so Bangladesh has issues, even though it is at the moment doing very well. So if Bangladesh can manage a very smart foreign policy which allows it to maintain good relations with India, China, as well as the United States, then it's going to do very well. But if the instability in the region itself increases, such as Pakistan continues to have problems or China continues to be more and more aggressive in the region, then Bangladesh will have to find one camp where it can find security and safety. And I'm not very sure that it will choose India over China, because at the moment, while it has good relations with India, China is investing quite heavily in Bangladesh. Afghanistan is another issue. Afghanistan under Taliban are causing more misery for Taliban than when they were at war. Afghan people are suffering from hunger, they're suffering from lack of human rights, women are out of schools, women are out of jobs, and the world refuses to recognize the Taliban government. Has become very difficult for Afghanistan to engage with the rest of the world. India is developing its relations now with Afghanistan. First, they were discussing behind the scenes. Now, India is about to open a small office in Kabul. So, it really, what happens in Afghanistan is critical because Afghanistan could end up sucking India into its domestic issues. It could suck Pakistan into its domestic issues, especially because of the Tehrik-e-Taliban in Afghanistan and Tehrik-e-Taliban in Pakistan. And the support that TTP gets from Afghanistan that could suck Afghanistan in. Either way, Afghanistan is a potential pothole on the road to the future of South Asia. Any one of these two countries, India or Pakistan, could simply end up driving with a pothole and get a puncture. So this is where Afghanistan, the issues of Afghanistan need to be resolved as quickly as possible, and hopefully the country stabilizes and does not once again find itself as the battleground of war where third parties are fighting. And then India's own domestic issues. While most Indians seem to deny the reality of it, the rest of the world seems to be very concerned with the declining human rights situation and declining rights of minorities. In fact, some people in India are saying that when Indian generals talk about 2.5 fronts on which they have to face a battle, one front is Pakistan, one front is China, and the half part is domestic issues, insurgencies. Some people limit it to Kashmir, some people actually include the entire Indian Muslim population, which is over 200 million, as the half front. But with more and more pressure to convert to Hinduism, threats from religious people to commit genocide, the bulldozing of mosques, there are issues that Muslims feel that they are under pressure from the current dispensation in Delhi. So India needs to resolve this domestic issue. It doesn't want to be facing three fronts. And if India is going to be the driver of South Asian politics, if India is going to be the leader of South Asia, where several countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Maldives are Muslim majority countries. So if India wants to lead this region, it has to improve its relations with Muslims in the neighborhood and within itself, and that is very critical. One of the problems of South Asia is that border issues still remain since independence. India, Pakistan, India, China. These are typical problems of post-colonial societies and countries which have successfully resolved border issues tend to be able to focus more on development and growth. And I think it is very important that India work to resolve its border issues. The good news is that all border issues with Bangladesh have been settled and both the countries have no border problems now. So these are, I think, the future geopolitical scenarios. I think with India and Bangladesh, both being democracies and both economies booming, with Afghanistan and Pakistan is where the problems lie. And Sri Lanka also is a problem, but Sri Lanka is not constitutive to South Africa, so to South Asia. So the problems in Sri Lanka will not destabilize the whole region. So I think that India and Bangladesh can together play a lead in resolving some of the issues in the region, and to make sure that while they all have good relations with China, they do not bring China into the region, do not bring US into the region, where these two then superpowers start contesting and South Asia becomes the battlefield. So to me, the future depends on India's ability to successfully be accepted as the leader of South Asia and remain autonomous, and so that it can have good relations with both the US and China and keep both of them out of South Asia. The second question that I want to address is from Abhishek Chatterjee, and it deals with the model that I'm using right now. He says, "Hello, Dr. Khan. I'm from India and I'm a big fan of you." Thank you very much, Abhishek. I have a question for you. What would happen to nuclear assets should Pakistan fail as a nation? Would these be dismantled or taken away? Or dismantled by whom? Taken away by whom? And that's an interesting question. One reason that America gave for its prolonged military stay in Afghanistan, even after bin Laden was killed, and they called the region AFPAC, was the fear that Pakistani nuclear weapons could end up in the hands of extremist organizations. The ultimate nightmare of America, 9/11 with nuclear weapons, could happen. So that was one of the reasons that policymakers gave in America for staying in Afghanistan until 2021. Your question, would Pakistan, if Pakistan became a failed nation? I think Pakistan is a failing nation at the moment. It is not very stable. Its economy is in a spiral. It is seeking help wherever it can. It's like literally begging the world to help it financially. On top of that, it has huge economic problems stemming from the floods, stemming from COVID. The growth model is not there. There is no developmental model in play at the moment. And the only institution which is stable, enduring, and capable of good governance of its own affairs is the Pakistani military, and that is now under severe assault from Imran Khan. So the scenario that you're fearing is pretty much around the corner. But I think that there are two things. One, that the military is still quite well established. Yes, military is suffering in terms of its public image, but the military itself is not destabilizing. It seems to be functioning reasonably well. And maybe it will lose control on the country, and therefore the share of the economy that the military takes away might diminish. But at the moment, the military is strong, so I think that nuclear weapons are safe. But I also suspect that the military relations between Pakistan and America may already have developed a mechanism by which Pakistani nuclear weapons are safe in case of takeover by undesirable extremist groups. So because I do not hear this concern from American leaders and from American military leaders, I feel that perhaps behind the scenes some kind of understanding has been reached between American military and Pakistani military, some kind of protocols and command systems which will ensure the safety of Pakistan's nuclear assets. Also, thank you very much to Abhishek Chatterjee, and thank you very much to Anuj Regmi for your wonderful and interesting questions. I hope you found them thought-provoking. It makes you think. I hope I answered some of your questions, and I look forward to more questions. Please send them in. Send them in as videos if you can. Send them in as audio files so people can listen to your voice. And as always, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, ring the bell icon, and share it with your friends. Until next time, this is Muqtedar Khan. See you soon.